Hi guys, welcome back, and hello if you are new. I hope all is going well in your world. I'm getting ready to go to New York this week and I cannot wait. However, another big event that's happening this week is that Behemoth are releasing their brand new album on the 16th of September. So please join me as I review Behemoth's brand new album, Opvs Contra Natvram. So if you're not familiar with Behemoth, they are a band that have been going for over 30 years, have had 11 total albums, of which one was probably, I would say, regarded as one of the best black metal albums ever, in the form of The Satanist, and its follow-up was pretty good as well, in the form of I Loved You at Your Darkest. They combine elements of black metal and death metal in a very identifiable style. So in terms of themes, the main idea of Opvs Contra Natvram is kind of blazing your own trail and, you know, kind of having your own thoughts. And I don't know if you follow Nergal on social media, but he's very sort of vocal about lots of different things. And I think that what he's trying to sort of echo on this album is that people can also stand up for themselves as well, particularly with a track called Neo-Spartacus, which I don't know if you guys know, but Spartacus was someone who stood up to, I think it was the Roman Empire. I'm pretty sure it's the Roman Empire. The record was produced by the band themselves. It's also probably the longest amount of time they've had to sort of ruminate and, you know, kind of think about all of the riffs. It was mixed by Daniel Bergstrand and mastered by Evil Joe Barresi, who's worked with Tool. You know, his list of who he's worked with, I think Alice in Chains is another one, is pretty big. And with that in mind, I think the sound of the album is still in this sort of very big cinematic feel. It feels more open and a little bit classic rock, which I know sounds kind of weird when you're talking about Behemoth, but I think that kind of makes sense. So whereas previously, I think with The Satanist and I Loved You at Your Darkest, the songs kind of felt a little bit more cohesive, whereas on Opvs Contra Natvram, I think the songs are very much their own statement, if that makes sense. The riffs are memorable and have pretty big hooks, to be fair. I think, you know, Once Upon a Pale Horse is a great example of that. They sort of evolve as the song goes, which is, again, you know, a kind of trait of this new era of Behemoth. So in the last couple of years, Behemoth have been kind of experimenting, I think, with even more of a cinematic kind of slant to their sound. So Off to War feels kind of like a logical follow-on from I Loved You at Your Darkest, but I really like the experimentation and just how sort of, I guess, sort of out there, really, Versus Christus is, which is the final track, and kind of similar to that vibe of O Father, O Satan, O Son. It's a very epic ending to the record and has some truly evil sounding piano sections. And I think, you know, this kind of idea of Nergal's Nick Cave kind of comes in here as well, but it's still very epic and very cinematic and kind of, you know, ends the record on a very high note. There's also, I think, more emphasis on choir this time, but it's less of a kind of, you know, sort of like tacked on thing, and it's more like embedded in the actual music, particularly on the Deathless Son in that pre-chorus and chorus section as well. And I think that Nergal's diction is even tighter. You're kind of like really understanding what he's saying, which I don't think is a easy thing to do in a genre like black metal or death metal. So I think props to him for that, to be fair. And overall, there are moments where the band do kind of go all guns blazing, but it's kind of a slower approach on this record, which I enjoy. I think that's really interesting, and it's something that, you know, Behemoth aren't necessarily known for, just kind of like slowing things down. And where guitars are concerned, they're still very much in this kind of classic rock idea, both in terms of, I think, the playing and also particularly with the leads and in the tone as well. And I really like the fact that they've kind of not simplified things, but, you know, certain things like a repetition of a pinch harmonic on Neo-Spartacus, or sort of like a nice lead line that's on Off to War, really kind of changes things up. But there are, of course, really nice guitar solos on display here. Of My Herculean Exile and The Deathless Sun are two standouts for me, for sure. Now, coming back to that idea of dynamics, this is where drums kind of help. And that's the kind of thing I've always really liked about Behemoth, is because it's very subtle, but it's very sort of well detailed, I guess, in terms of how they're putting a song together and building that sense of tension up and up and up. There's also excellent choruses, you know, The Deathless Sun in particular, I think is one of the really, really good songs that the band have put together. But there's been something that's kind of not been letting me latch onto this album, and I really think it's to do with the beginning. This is a record that, for me, gets stronger and stronger the kind of more you go into it. And I think it's because post-God Nirvana into Malaria Vulgata is just, it kind of stumbles a little bit. But once you kind of get through that, we've got Disinheritance, which has got a really cool little kind of riff, which I really liked. And there's a lot more kind of experimentation going on in terms of pace, ideas. And then it kind of gives it a bit more time to sort of flourish. So for me, I think this is really kind of a grower. So listen to it with quite an open mind, because it didn't necessarily click with me straight away. So I wouldn't quite put it up as high as, you know, the lofty heights of The Satanist or I Loved You at Your Darkest. But this is definitely not a record to be sniffed at. There's some really, really interesting stuff going on here. Behemoth are honing their sound. They're making use of cinematics even more. And I think it's just another sort of good step forward. Perhaps just not as big of a leap as we've been used to. So I hope you guys enjoyed this album review. If you did, tell a friend. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Everything always helps. I really appreciate everything. Thank you so much. And I will see you guys very, very soon for another video. Humanity once again.